Welcome on into the Kiwi Football Fix. Great to see you, and we've got a couple of great guests lined up for you over the next half hour. We've got the voice of the A-League. His name, Simon Hill. You would have heard his voice from time to time over the years. He's going to cast an eye across the playoffs, and in particular, that Wellington Phoenix Western United match that comes up first on Saturday. Speaking of which, our first guest is with us right here, right now. His name, Ufuk Talay, head coach of the Wellington Phoenix. Uffy, how are things, mate?
Yeah, good. Things are progressing well. It's a very exciting week for us leading into finals football.
Let's be completely blunt and cut to the chase. You have defeated Western United 3 times this year, twice in the league, once in the cup. How do we make it 4 on Saturday?
Yeah, look, we'll plan and prepare well. We'll prepare the boys the best we can. We've got a few boys coming back in, which is going to help the group. But previous results won't be an indicator for us. Look, this is finals football. It's a different game. It's a one-off game, so we've got to make sure that we're prepared well.
So you wouldn't go as far as to say that they're your bunny? Because that's what I would say.
Yeah, look, I don't look at it like that. Like I said, look, they're still a very good team. They're a very experienced side, and they've got some very experienced players, and they've had a good season. Look, we've done well against them previously, but finals football is a different game.
I'm quite keen to hear about your approach, and obviously I don't want you to give it all away on this show, but when you look at those defeats of Western throughout the season, the match in the FFA Cup, you had a very, very young squad who played the majority of the game without the ball. You win 1-0. The next game, it came after 4 straight defeats in the league, and it was the debut of Gail Sandoval. You still had Alex Rufer and Clayton Lewis at your disposal. You win 2-1. And then the final victory, 4-1, comes on the back of hidings at the hands of Melbourne City, almost Manchester City, Melbourne City and Central Coast Mariners, and you bounce back. How do you approach this game? Because you've done it in so many different ways throughout the year.
Yeah, look, this is a different game. It's finals football. We've got to make sure we've got to think about if the game goes to extra time as well with our substitutions that we make. When we need to make those substitutions depends on how the game is going. We're happy at the same time. We've got some players coming in to give us that depth for this game with the substitutions that we might need to make as the game progresses. I'd be very happy if we could get the job done in 90 minutes so we don't have to go to extra time. But look, it's like I said, it's finals football. We have to have a plan A and a plan B. And if things change, if we're up or if we go down, and what we need to do.
The substitutions, let's talk about the possible strength of them, because at just the right time, you've managed to get a raft of players fit and firing. The likes of Gary Hooper, we've seen him over the last couple of weeks. He played big minutes against City on Monday. How likely that he can play 90 minutes on Saturday?
Oh, look, we'll push him as far as we can with Hoops. It's a very important game. It's one of those ones where we'll have to take the risk to get the result that we want. So, if he needs to go to the full 90, we'll use him for the full 90. But at the same time, we'll have a bit more depth to chuck on the park. With players like Josh Sotirio coming back in as well. So, look, it'll depend on the game and where the game is at and how we use the boys.
So I take it from that Josh Sotirio's calf is A-OK and he'll play. What about David Ball, who's basically getting by week to week or in between games in a moon boot? How's that dreadful toe of his?
Yeah, he's going well. He does what he needs to do off the park to keep himself fit and conditioned at the same time. He's in a moon boot every day. But look, the great thing is that we're not making it worse, but it's not getting any better at the same time whilst he's playing. So it's one of those where he just gets a jab and continues on.
It's a great advertisement for moon boots, though, isn't it, Uffy? When you think about the pain that he's experiencing week to week, and he can still get out there and play 60, 70, 80 minutes of an A-League game.
Yeah, I think the jab does help for him to get through those moments.
Okay, so it's more of an advertisement for pain-killing injections. The last one that I want to talk about, the the massive gain for the Wellington Phoenix. We saw him play 45 minutes against City on Monday. Clayton Lewis. Now, this is huge for the side because we've been lacking that central defensive linchpin, and he provides that for your team. How key will he be in this match against Western?
Yeah, I'm very pleased to have Clayton back. He gave us a good 45 minutes against Melbourne City in the last game. So, one of the biggest losses was obviously losing our captain, Alex Rufer, and Clayton to injury. where they're very important players in the way that we play. They win a lot of balls for us without the ball, without when we don't have possession, and they're the guys that start the game for us. So Clayton's been very effective for us, and it's nice having him back with the group.
And because of his and Alex's removal from this side, you've basically been having to cobble together a midfield as best you can. So Clayton's inclusion, what will that mean for somebody like Gael Sandoval, who is a very creative weapon of yours, but he's been playing so deep in the absence of Lewis and Rufer?
Yeah, look, for Gael, we can possibly push him back up into the number 10 role, which he originally started with. Look, Gael and Nico, for me, have done a fantastic job in taking up that role. We've had to change the way that we set up a little bit with an extra player at the back. And also, we played a little bit more in transition, where I think Gael was very effective, especially in that first game when we won against Western United 4-1, where we do win. When we do win the ball, he's able to dribble out from those central areas. So, look, it gives us an opportunity to tweak things again with some players coming back in.
What does it do to the mindset of these players, Uffy, when you have to play them out of position, basically doing it for the cause, doing it for the team, and they're not comfortable, they're not used to those positions? Obviously, Gael playing deeper, but I'm also thinking about the likes of Josh Soterio, who we saw employed as a right wing back at Eden Park, and Ben Waine, the Waine trainer, is basically doing exactly the same the last few games. So what does it do for their mindset?
Yeah, look, players need to adapt. Sometimes it's not the role that they want to play within the team, but for me, the team always comes first, and that's why we put players in those positions to be effective and get the outcome that we need. So, Joshy did a good job at Eden Park. Wayne did a fantastic job against Western Sydney to get the result that we needed. And, players need to adapt. Sometimes it's not preferred where they want to play, it's not the position that they really want to play. But honestly, if I was playing and the coach put me in goals, I put my hand up to play.
How have you evolved? Because I think we literally saw it formation-wise when you suffered those defeats at the hands of City and the Mariners, and you went away from a formation that you were very, very comfortable with, you knew very well, and you employed those three central defenders. So I suppose, how have you evolved yourself throughout this very difficult season?
Well, one thing after those heavy defeats that we had was how can we best utilise the players that we had available to get the outcome that we needed, and also at the same time, how can we keep our best players on the park that were available at that time as well. One thing that we were lacking, obviously, was Clayton and Roos in that role as the 2 sixers, and how could we protect our central defenders as well, when we didn't have the ball. So we employed an extra player at the back, which I personally don't like, but we had to adapt to it, because I'd rather play with 2 players up top and being able to put pressure on the opponent, and playing the way with a 5-4-1 is you hand possession basically over to the opposition, and you can't dictate really the terms of putting pressure on them to try to win the ball. So it's not my preferred way of playing, but we had to adapt to what we had on the park, and at times it served us well.
How was that arm wrestle going on in your head, in your brain? You have to play a way that you don't want to. So, how long did that conversation take place for until we finally saw it on the field?
Yeah, it was after we had those 2 heavy defeats when we sat down with the staff and we come up with a plan of what's best for the group on trying to get the 3 points and win games. It's something that I really didn't want to do, in the sense that I believe the way that we play is very fluid and very attacking when we set up in our own way that we normally play. But we had to, like I said, work out what was the best case scenario of getting the best players on the park and being able to get the outcome that we needed. So, look, it wasn't done where I preferred to do it. It was done because it needed to get done.
Yeah, you just do it because you've got to do it. Much like the season as a whole, right? Because it was tough. It was tough watching. I can only imagine what it was like for you and your squad. How did you manage to, with all the hurdles that were put in front of you, how did you manage to clear most of them and keep this squad happy and focused on the task at hand?
Look, I think we're a little bit fortunate that we have a young group. We've got a lot of young players that just want to play football. We don't have too many senior players with family. Ballie's family was here for quite a while in Australia with him, and then went back over to the UK. I know that we sent Hoops over for a couple of weeks to catch up with his family, because his family's been in the UK for quite a long time, and and Scotty had his family over here for a short period of time as well. So the rest of the boys are all single. Some may have girlfriends, but look, they're a young group. They're a focused group. They just want to play football, and we speak about what we can control, and that's what we do on the training park, and then what we produce on the weekend. So, if we could just keep the boys focused on the task at hand and the outcome we wanted to get, like I said, they're a good bunch of boys and just want to play football.
When you think about that moment before the players take to the field, you've got one last message for them in the changing sheds. What will you say to them before they go out there and, fingers crossed, beat Western United across 90 minutes?
For me, it's enjoy the moment, enjoy the occasion. Not every season you get to play finals football. So for us, it's just go out there and enjoy what they do.
And look, I love getting way too far ahead of myself. It's just in my nature. I can't see what's right in front of me. I'm sort of looking over there. And on the horizon, beyond Western, who are our bunnies, let's make no bones about it, Uffy, they are our bunny. Once we beat them, we've got a home match at Sky Stadium, Wellington, Wednesday night against Melbourne City. What would it mean to you and the team and the fans of the side to have a match of that calibre?
Yeah, look, hopefully we get the result that we need against Western United, which will lead into a game in Wellington against Melbourne City. So for us, we had a great time again whilst we were back in New Zealand playing at home. So I think it's a massive occasion. It's a one-off game again, and I think it'll be great for the boys to get the support that they need.
You like the change from a one-off game to that two-legged system in the semi-finals?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good for the competition. I think it's also good for the clubs to be able to play home and away. Previously, it wasn't like this, so I think it's good for the clubs in a sense that football is a business at the end of the day. The way I look at it, and financially, I think it helps the clubs to be able to do a home and away.
When you look at the other teams in the top six, how glad are you that it's Western that you're up against, given the strength and the qualities of the other teams?
Yeah, look, not that I'm glad. I think it's more so, look, we ended up finishing sixth. Obviously, Central Coast won their game and Adelaide won their game, so we ended up in the position that we're at. So, look, once it comes to finals football, this game is a one-off game. I think we just need to be well prepared in what we need to do. Look, it could have been anybody at the end of the day. So we just need to go out there and make sure we do our jobs.
All right. And just lastly, before we let you go, and thank you so much for your time on the Kiwi Football Fix, who wins this competition? Is it the Wellington Phoenix? Can we go all the way?
We will definitely push as hard as we can. We've made it into the top six, and I told the boys today that they've earned their spot in the final series, and now we push as hard and go as far as we can.
Good job, boss man. Thanks so much for your time today, and go well on Saturday night. We're all behind you.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Okay, we've heard from Uffy Talay. Shall we get an independent voice, an outsider's view, a perspective on the Wellington Phoenix and indeed the playoffs as a whole? We go to the voice of the A-League, Simon Hill. He comes back to the Kiwi Football Fix. Simon, great to see your face again. How are you?
Good to see you, Goran. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, and I'm extremely excited about this matchup, Wellington Phoenix and Western. We'll get to that in a moment. But first of all, your reaction to the fact that the Knicks made the six with all this adversity thrown at them.
I do love the way you say that in your Kiwi accent. The Knicks made the six. Yeah, look, it's a terrific achievement. I must admit, I hold my hands up, and I've said this to Uffy Talay and apologised at the start of the season. I seem to do this every year with Wellington. You look at the players that left at the start of the season, I thought, oh, he's going to struggle this year. But I thought that last year. And every year, Wellington seemed to pull the rabbit out of the hat. I know they just missed out last season, but this year, really, a tremendous achievement to get to the top six. And, I made this comparison the other day. The only other club that's probably had similar difficulties to Wellington is Perth Glory. And look what happened to them. They really struggled to deal with it. So maybe the fact that Wellington had been in exile a year before helped them a little bit because they knew what was coming. And they just got on with it. But, terrific achievement. A little bit inconsistent at times, but you can say that for a lot of A-League clubs. And I think overall it's been a very successful season, no matter what happens on Sunday.
A little bit
Saturday.
inconsistent. Gee whiz, mate. You're being kind there, Simon. Speaking to a New Zealand audience, you got to be. But, gee, some of those results were very, very up and down. They were polar opposites.
Yeah, they were. And it was strange, really. It's, you know, some weeks Wellington would be so good and win 4 or 5-0, and then the next week they get tonked by the same scoreline. It was a bit odd. And I guess going into the finals, the one thing that Uffy has to ensure doesn't happen is that they don't have one of those off days. Because if they do, they'll get thumped. You know, Western United are a good side. There's no doubt about that. But they've matched up well against Western this season, Wellington. The last time they played, I think it was 4-1 that the Phoenix won a few weeks back at one of the many grounds that Western United play at. And I think they've got a very good puncher's chance, not just in this game, but you know, in the finals in general. But they've got to be switched on, particularly defensively. And at times we've seen this season, if they're not, I mean, we even saw it in the first half an hour against Melbourne City the other night. You know, when the second goal went in, I was thinking, goodness me, this could be 4-5-6 here. But then we saw a different Wellington Phoenix, the better Wellington Phoenix, in the second half of the game. And in the end, they were probably a bit unlucky not to take a point out of the match. So, yeah, I think it's, you know, perhaps indicative of a squad that is still gelling together. There's a few young kids in there, of course, as well, that are not that experienced. I would imagine that Uffy will have his experienced players back, including David Ball at the weekend, and that will certainly help. So I think they've got a good chance.
Hey, so we've got 2 games this weekend, Simon. The Wellington Phoenix up against Western. City and Victory get the weekend off, given they're top qualifiers. The other match, Adelaide versus the Mariners. This one fascinates me. We've got 2 teams that are currently on 5-match win streaks. The last time that they met, Mariners won 3-0, but Adelaide lost their goalkeeper at the 26-minute mark, and the goals came late. So, in your expert opinion, how does this match play out?
Well, my expert opinion says, I honestly don't know, because they are in such good form. Again, I'm going to lean on, you know, my tried and trusted, well, home teams normally win finals, which I think makes Adelaide favourites, but only just. The Mariners, for me, they've lost 1 game in 14. You're right in saying that they've won their last 5 straight, as have Adelaide United. The really good thing about the Mariners, in my opinion, going into this final series is they've got goals. They've got goals everywhere. Jason Cummings is banging them in left, right and centre. They've got Marco Orenia, they've got Moresh. They've got this young kid, Garan Kuol, on the bench, who, let me tell you, is just fantastic. So, you know, that they can score, and that always gives you a chance in finals football. Now, the last time they met at Cooper Stadium, you just rightly mentioned that the Mariners did them 3-0 in Gosford, and that was after Joe Gauci had been sent off in the first half, and the goals arrived late. But the last time at Cooper Stadium, the Mariners led until very late in the game, and Adelaide produced one of their trademark comebacks, and another good young kid, Nestori Irankunda, scored an absolute beauty to win it in stoppage time. So I think it might be that close again. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes into extra time or even penalties. And just on that, there's, you know, some interesting stats as well. Mark Birighitti has saved 3 penalties so far this season. The seasonal record is 4, currently held by Paul Izzo and Ante Kovic. And at the other end, Joe Gauci saved 2 penalties against the Mariners last season in the same game. So, you know, it could be as tight as that. Tough one to predict. I'd lean towards Adelaide because of that home advantage, and Coopers is so parochial come finals time, but only just.
But Mariners, I mean, we know a lot about them over here in New Zealand. Simon, they beat us, what was it, 9-0 across 2 matches in the space of 12 days, and we know they've got goals. But what was it about the Mariners that clicked partway through this season? You mentioned their 14-match unbeaten run. Yes, they've won outright the last 5, but 14 matches without a defeat. It's absolutely ridiculous. What clicked for them?
Well, I think basically at its most bottom level, they've got good players. They've got a nice blend of these young kids that I've mentioned, and I'll add a couple more. Kai Rolls has been terrific at the heart of defence. Lewis Miller down the right. Now, I think this is a key battle on Sunday up against Craig Goodwin, Adelaide's best player. And Lewis Miller is a machine down that right-hand side. Physically, He could play for the All Blacks, let me tell you. He is so muscular.
Is he eligible?
Probably not. I don't think he would want to. But he's a really good up-and-coming defender. And they've got that experience of Jason Cummings and Marco Aurelio and one or two others to lean on. Now, I thought when the Oli Bozanic situation happened a few weeks ago, I don't know if you're across this, but Bozanic has been in dispute with the club since pretty much halfway through the season. He was their captain. At one point, he was their leading goal scorer. And when he was left out of the team, I thought, that could destabilise the Mariners. Instead, it's gone the other way. And it's because the kids have taken on that responsibility. In the heart of midfield, Josh Nisbet has been tremendous this season, alongside Max Ballard. He doesn't get a lot of plaudits, but he does that dirty work. As Didier Deschamps used to be called the water carrier. They go fetch, they tackle, they run, they harry, and they pass the ball to a more talented teammate. And they do that really well, the Mariners. They work as a proper unit. And when they are under pressure, they've got, in my opinion, the best goalkeeper in the league, in Birighitti, who's saved them on countless occasions. So they're a good all-round unit, and I don't think any team in the finals wants to play the Mariners.
You could also look at COVID and the schedule rejigs being a contributing factor to some of these teams not making it. What did it all do to the quality of the A-League this season? You've watched a lot of Australian football, Trans-Tasman football. Was it better or worse than other iterations of the A-League?
Look, I don't think it was any better, any worse. I think the level of our league, is it the Premier League? No, of course it's not. Is it La Liga? No, of course it's not. But there are 200 other leagues around the world that aren't that standard either. Our league is fine. There are good games, there are bad games. The issue for us is the optics. The optics of playing at empty stadiums, at stadiums that aren't natural homes, including Wollongong for Wellington this season. It wasn't their fault. But, that's the reality. Perth going to play in Tasmania in oval stadiums. Western United still not having a home ground after 3 seasons. Macarthur having to move games away because of a poor pitch. Sydney FC being displaced from the Sydney Football Stadium. Brisbane Roar playing an hour outside of Brisbane. We have too many of our clubs who are not embedded for one reason or another in their local communities, and they are not playing at the right-sized venues. Now, I was at the F3 Derby on Saturday, Central Coast Mariners against Newcastle. They offered free tickets to friends of members. They were rewarded with that. 11,000 crowd, perfect rectangle of the stadium, cool conditions, great pitch, lovely backdrop, and we had a great game as a result. And it felt good. It felt like football. If we provide the conditions for our players, they will excel. And too often, I'll give you one more example on the other end of the spectrum. When Wellington Phoenix played Melbourne City, if you remember, at Shark Park in Cronulla a few weeks ago, it was behind closed doors at a rugby league venue. There were rugby league markings all over the pitch. The quality of the surface was awful. Both teams playing in away kits for some bizarre reason. At 3 o'clock kickoff, I think, or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. How do we expect people to watch that? That's not connecting with the fan base. And that's what we have to get back to. The fan has to come first, and the TV viewer by extension. We've got to make it attractive for our football community to tune in and engage with the competition. And too often we don't do that. We go and play these ridiculous oversized oval stadiums with stands that are 50 meters from the pitch, or grass banks that in 40-degree heat sometimes, 5 o'clock kickoff. How do we expect that to look good, either at the stadium or on television? So we've got to start getting more of that stuff right. The players, though, aren't to blame. By and large, the quality of our league is fine.
All right, Simon, absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for your time on the Kiwi Football Fix. And I'll say it for you one more time. The Knicks made the 6. We'll catch you next time, Simon.
I love it. Good on you, Goran. Nice to speak to you, mate.
My thanks to good bugger Simon Hill and Ufuk Talay before him. The A-League finals, first week of them. Remember, Adelaide against Central Coast Mariners. That's Sunday at 6 on Sky Sports 7. The big one we all are looking forward to, though. The Wellington Phoenix, the return of the Wellington Phoenix to playoffs football. First time in 2 years. They're up against Western United, their bunnies. That one is Saturday, 9:45 p.m, live on beIN Sport. Who knows? I might see you next week on the Kiwi Football Fix from Wellington. Yeah, right after the Melbourne City first leg match. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and you should too. We'll see you next time on The Fix.